Hey everybody, welcome back to Chasing the God Shot. On this podcast, we talk to people in the coffee world about their experience with the God Shot. Today we have Maria. Maria, welcome. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Joa. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Cool. Really happy to have you. So the first question is, what do you do in the coffee industry?
So I have done many different things throughout the supply chain. So first of all, I grew up in a coffee farm, making me a fifth-generation Colombian coffee farmer. So I feel like growing up, I was literally at the farm doing all that farm work along with my dad, my grandparents. Fast forward, I moved to the US and I co-founded with John Travelsi Progeny Coffee, which is a company with a mission to lift farmers out of poverty and mitigate the effects of climate change in the coffee industry.
That's big time. How many farms did you say that you are currently working with?
Right now, we just started working with a group of 500 farmers.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So we're really excited because we're deploying our free location technical support, all of our regenerative agriculture methods, and all of that fun stuff.
That's awesome. That's a lot of people. That's a big impact.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. What is your personal definition of a God Shot?
So I think my personal definition of a God Shot is that coffee cup that it just blows your mind, that it's very unique and it transforms your perception of coffee, and that forever on you're always trying to chase that profile or that cup of coffee.
Yeah, it happens. It's a white rabbit, I think they call it. Just you're always looking for that. Do you remember your first God Shot experience?
So as I was thinking about this, I think I had several, and I'll say several because
awesome.
I remember the first time. So when you grow up in a coffee farm, there's a lot of coffee, and I remember as we would arrive, and someone will always come out with a cup of coffee, and I remember my dad drinking so much coffee. So I feel like I tasted coffee earlier than any other child here in the US.
How old do you think you were?
I think maybe like 8 or 9.
Young,
so really young. I was really young. Because there was always a cup of coffee, and that is a cup of coffee. So it's a specific cup of coffee that we brew at a coffee farm that is made on a stone oven, and it's kind of smoke, and the water is water with really raw sugar, and then they filter it in this cloth in this stone oven, and so it has this kind of raw sugar, which we call panela flavor, with this smoky. It was very sweet though. I do remember that, but I remember that taste for like home.
Yeah,
and
that's very
every
specific.
time I drink this coffee, it's like it takes me back to that early child memory of being at home at the farm with my family. So I would say that would be like my earliest one. Now here with Progeny Coffee, now that we're experimenting with fermentations and like going all out there, I think there was one that was a geisha from one of my dad's friends, and he went all out on like really growing. It was like one of the first geishas in Colombia, and it tasted like orange jasmine tea with a hint of lemon, and it was the first time that I understood like coffee could taste something different. So I am a mom of 2, so you might hear a little bit my baby. But so it was this first moment where I was like, wow, coffee could taste like so much more, and it has so many layers, and it took me this journey to understand and discover what else could happen with coffee and how else coffee could taste like. Then not so long ago, I just tried another one, which I mentioned to you, that I was literally hugging the cup because it tasted like a rose bouquet. Like it was like I would put it in my mouth, and it was like if I was just holding a pink rose bouquet.
Trippy.
And it was just like the crazy sensation.
But it was a positive, like really beautiful experience?
Oh, it was so beautiful that I was just like hugging my cup of coffee of how beautiful. Like if someone would give you a bouquet and you're just like hugging it, of like the experience.
That's pretty cool. They're pretty. It's pretty different experiences. Your very first one, like being, because that's something that, it's very personal. Like it takes you back to childhood, and the other one is like, okay, this expands your perception of what coffee could taste like, and that's pretty cool. So have those experiences changed your path at all in the coffee world? Has that made any impact? Like any decisions you made on like what you're doing? Or
definitely, because I feel like at the beginning, as a coffee farmer, at that time we had just the perception that coffee just tasted as like that chocolatey nutty, and so there was more like that comforting of like, oh, this tastes like home, right? And so there was not of that chase and discovery, kind of like what like wine passionates do, right? That they're like trying to find different wines that they reserve and all of that. But then the moment I tried for the first time this geisha, and it opened that world of like, oh my gosh, coffee could taste different, and especially Colombian coffee, my community could taste different, and so it was really beautiful because it opened up my search as well in Colombia, like my roots, like the winds, the different mountains. What did the different mountains were offering based on their terroir, their winds, the neighbors, what was out, like the plantations that were around, what different crops. And so it took me in a more deep journey to understand the different regions of Colombia. I wanted to discover the farmer and their intention. So it completely shift from like, oh, we're all coffee growers, to like, what are you doing? What is your fermentation? Oh my gosh, I want to try, I want to taste. How else can we push the boundaries of coffee? And I feel like with Progeny Coffee, he really defined that as well, because my co-founder has his own story of a God. He really had like a God shot.
I want to bring John on one day. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we will tell his whole story, because it changed his whole life and career and everything after that shot. But it really showed us that if we were gonna open our coffee company, it needed to be based out of experience. And I remember our first collection. Our intention was that everybody that was going to try our lineup was going to have that God shot. And since then, that has been one of our goals, that all of our clients, everybody that in our collection, they'll be able to find that, or at least be that moment that they're like, oh, for the first time, I'm able to taste the notes in a coffee. Whereas before I didn't.
Not just read it and kind of like, oh, I guess, but actually be able to,
Yeah, so we literally have a team in Colombia 24/7, and we do a lot of innovation on fermentations, on enzymes, yogurts, different like weeks of fermentation with the coffee, and it's all in that search of like how else we could push the boundary of how coffee could taste like.
That's very cool, because like in learning all these things, like you're able to impact the farmers that you're working with to kind of help them get their coffee to the point where it's at that level. But it's only in searching and figuring things out that you can get that information. So that's really cool. Wow.
Yeah,
that's a huge impact.
It's pretty amazing when you go to the farmers, like myself, like I grew up and it's like, we're just growing coffee and this is how coffee tastes like, and we didn't talk much about it, but just something we were trading. And so now going back and the moment you see a farmer tasting their coffee for the first time and understanding, it's pretty amazing, because they don't know the value that they hold.
Yeah, it's not common for farmers to taste their own coffee, which is kind of crazy. Like when you think about it, like, wow. Yeah. So the question that I have next would be, with that experience and kind of like you've been able to travel and kind of where you've been, are there any particular like coffee shops or roasters that you think people may be able to find their next God shot experience, have a better chance of finding that?
Yeah, so here I will say we took a trip with my co-founder, and we were in LA, and we were driving and we were going through coffee shop, and then there was one that was open in a corner. It was tiny, but oh my gosh, we ordered every single coffee that they had in the menu, and we literally walked out with like 5 different cups. We look crazy, but like every single cup was amazing. The name was Aquarela, and it was all Brazilian. It's a Brazilian family, and it's all about Brazilian. So it had a similar approach to what we do Progeny with Colombia, but their coffee were also like, we were just amazed by the quality, and it was all about experience.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be one that is very independent owned, and you would definitely walk out transformed. Because even us that we taste like so many coffees, and we're like, oh my gosh, tell us what also you do with anaerobic ferment, and like
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I do when I find a good shop. I'll taste like, what do you have? And then just because you don't know if you're gonna find that experience again anytime soon. So.
Exactly. I know. We were like, this one. Wow. Okay, this one. And so we're pretty fans of them.
Where can people find you, Progeny? Get more information about you and your company.
Yes, I think the easiest way to find us is in progeny.coffee.com, and there where you could find our coffee. And with us, you actually don't get to choose a blend, but actually adopt the farmer and partner with the farmer. So as you're drinking an incredible coffee, you're lifting a farmer out of poverty. So what better way to try your coffee?
Cool. Awesome. So I'll make sure the information's in the show notes, both for the place that you recommended and also the information for Progeny. That's all I have, but thank you for taking the time again to kind of chat and share your experience with the Gotcha. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting us. Such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll chat with you next time.